A very good evening. Throughout the long, tortured Brexit process, business leaders have consistently warned that uncertainty is their biggest enemy. Well, today, the aerospace giant Airbus did its best to push Theresa May and her ministers into action and help make some of the unknown known. It warned that it was losing patience with the government and would pull out of the UK in the event of a no-deal Brexit. That could mean the loss of up to 14,000 UK jobs and threaten over 100,000 more in its supply chain. Well, coming up, we'll hear from people at one of the towns most likely to be affected. But first, our senior correspondent, Ian Woods, has this report.
Airbus isn't taking off from Britain just yet, but it's made clear it's willing to head in that direction. Hardly surprising, perhaps, it's a pan-European company with a Dutch headquarters, a French main office and a German chief executive. The company likes things just the way they are and raised concerns directly with Theresa May 3 weeks ago.
We would see it as chaos at the borders. The facts are out there. We felt it was time to say it. Perhaps you could say we're running out of patience. We've been listening to the discussions amongst the government negotiators, and we felt it's important that we as a business, to whom European integration and coordination of our parts and our people is so important.
It's not alone in that view. BMW and Siemens have voiced similar concerns, but a no-deal Brexit could jeopardise Airbus's European safety certification, as well as its cross-border manufacturing arrangements. Take the latest A320. The wings are produced in Broughton. 3 different plants in France make the centre wing box, engine pylons, and contribute to the construction of the fuselage. Another part of the fuselage and the tail cone is made in Hamburg, while 2 other German plants make the wing flaps and the vertical stabilizer. The horizontal stabilizer is Spanish-made. Components for these move backwards and forwards across the channel, highly synchronized, so there are no production delays.
They're not the only big industry player that has carried out its own risk assessments, but I think it's the first to put its head above the parapet.
Airbus say that the business secretary Greg Clark encouraged them to go public with their warning, but he himself was unwilling to respond to their concerns on camera. Instead, a government statement was issued containing phrases such as significant progress, free and frictionless, mutually beneficial, and concluding that a no-deal scenario is unlikely. Leading figures from both sides of the Brexit argument told Sky's Adam Bolton that Airbus's statement proved their point.
Big businesses will always lobby for their interests. Of course they will. I understand that. But what business wants above all, where I will agree with Airbus, is what business wants. They want to know what the cards are they've got to play with. Yep. And one of my objections to the transition period is all that does is delay the uncertainty as to where we're going to finish up.
I don't know how, Nigel, you explain that a business like Airbus or a business like Nissan is not damaged if you just start introducing delays at the ports, new paperwork, new tariffs, start saying you're going to have different regulations.
Brexiteers accuse the company of scaremongering, but if there was to be a Brexit crash landing, Airbus is bracing for impact and readying the parachutes. Ian Woods, Sky News.
So how big could the impact be if Airbus does pull out of the UK? Well, as we mentioned, the company employs around 14,000 people in the UK at a total of 25 different sites. That includes the factories at Filton and Broughton, where, as you heard, the wings for Airbus are made. At Broughton, Airbus employs around 6,000 people. And our correspondent, Mike McCarthy, is in the town and sent this report.
Until Brexit, it seemed unthinkable that Airbus would consider pulling out of the UK. And workers at its plant in North Wales believe that the suggestion that it could is no idle threat.
I don't know, it's going to ruin people's lives, you know, because it's hard to get another job somewhere else. Stability. I just don't know what's going to happen.
There's massive repercussions should things go wrong, and I'd like to think not. But as I say, you can't underestimate the impact of this company on this local area.
As another Beluga plane with a cargo of Airbus wings took off from its Broughton plant, the local MP argued that jobs here were not those Britain could afford to lose.
But these are very good jobs, they're high quality jobs. There are a lot of apprentices here. It's the sort of company that people want to work at and they get good rewards for it. And we don't want to lose those sort of quality jobs.
Airbus tried to head off claims of sabre-rattling by saying its warning was not part of Project Fear, but more a dawning reality. What makes the comments from Airbus all the more shocking is that many of its workers know only too well how some local communities have struggled to recover from previous large-scale job losses. Just down the road, the town of Shotton still holds the record for suffering the most job losses in a single day, 6,500 at the steel plant. At this community centre, they still honour the man who originally set up the steelworks, and at Friday Club, they have lived long enough to witness the legacy of those redundancies in 1980.
My brother died 2 years later, and we always said it was because of he sort of took it to heart, and he couldn't get another job. There was no other job for him to go to.
When they left school, you went to the steelworks as soon as you were able. You seemed as though you'd mapped out your life, and yet you'd have to change it because the steelworks were shutting. It would alter everything, and everything it did, didn't it?
There'll be many more hours of Brexit negotiations before Airbus makes any firm decisions, but just the threat of departure gives ammunition to those who fear Brexit will leave British industry trailing behind. Mike McCarthy, Sky News, North Wales.
And it's that question that Mike poses I want to discuss now with Gerard Tubb, and that's what people are asking. If Airbus are saying this openly, others we know are thinking it, and could they potentially follow?
Well, I mean, the government will, I'm sure, now be expecting other firms. We've heard from BMW today. They've said that they want clarity by the end of the summer. You might expect that with such a big employer coming out, because you could say, why haven't they done it before? Well, Mike was talking about the not wanting to be part of Project Fear, in that they clearly do not want to be seen as part of fear-mongering against Brexit. That doesn't go down well, particularly with many of their workers who will have voted leave. But now other companies may well feel emboldened, and as the corridor of time left is narrowing for these companies to decide what they're going to do up to leave and during the transition period, if we get one, then yeah, they may well come out. And
I know you've talked to Leave voters in areas that could be affected by some of these big companies making these decisions, but in your experience, many of them say, you know, we still would vote Leave because we want to take back control.
This is really interesting. One of the examples that pollsters will use is the 350 million a week on the side of the bus. If it hadn't been the case that a lot of people who voted for Leave were content to vote Leave knowing that they personally may well be worse off, then there would have been an outcry when that was debunked. OK, it's not going to happen. The Brexit dividend is another example. Why is there no outcry? The reason, the feeling is, because people wanted to vote Leave knowing that maybe it wasn't going to be great for them, but they would take back control, in the words of the campaign. That idea of sovereignty, that idea of national pride, that idea of taking something back from Europe and having a destiny again is actually what motivates them. So in that sense, a lot of the people who work at Airbus will have voted Leave, and if you go and talk to them, they will still say, look, it can't be as bad as everyone's going to say, it'll be all right in the long term, and you know, if things have to be a bit tighter, then so be it.
Gerard, thank you very much indeed for the analysis. Gerard Tubb there.